I don't use a lot of adjustment layers. Adjustment layers are great in that they let you use levels and curves and color balance and hue and saturation, but there are sharpening routines and smoothing routines and other things that I have to create a duplicate layer for. I just got used to the freedom of them, and I tend to make a lot of duplicate layers. It makes the file larger. As I said, I do sometimes use the adjustment layers that you do. Now, alternatively, if I were to, for instance, create this duplicate layer, I could also, by clicking simply on the show all or reveal all white layer mask, add a white mask. Control Z again to back up. Alternatively, by using the alternate Alt key and clicking here, I create a black hide all or conceal all mask. Remember, white reveals and black conceals. Now these are manual masks, I would call them, and why would we want to do that? Let's say in this duplicate layer we decided to increase saturation. Now, these days there are better ways to saturate than use saturation, like match color, but for demonstration purposes, let's just make what I would call a global change, saturating the entire image, as you can see. Now typically global changes aren't great because I don't want to saturate this already noisy galactic cirrus here. I don't want to add that saturation to background sky. Typically want to desaturate background sky, especially with some chrominance noise. And I've got to be careful of the levels that I saturate my stars. But I do want a little bit of a saturation boost on my target galaxy. Now if I had a small region like that I wanted to apply the change to, I would probably use a hide all mask. And if I wanted the change to appear in the majority of an image, I would use a show all or reveal all mask. So I guess we'll start with the hide all, and as you can see, none of that change as I click the eyeball on and off is being applied. Well, since black conceals, white reveals, and I can get there by switching the foreground background color picker with the little arrows here, or with the X key. At any rate, I want white paint. I will typically use a paintbrush tool. It's good to use that at a softer setting. Here's hardness 50-50, so that we get a more feathered, softer transition between our areas that we paint. And the master diameter can be varied here with the slider or with the bracket keys, bracket being between the P key and the backslash key, thusly. So with white paint on the tip of my brush tool and making sure that the mask itself is highlighted and not the image, let's do some painting. You can see that saturation change coming up in the galaxy immediately. And we can see that white paint applied to the black mask. So this change is concealed by the black paint and revealed by the white paint. Let's have a look at the mask itself, and we see we can change our background patterns and colors. We can see though that we've missed some areas, and so we might want to refine that a little bit if we think our chrominance is getting too into the noisy sky regions, we can click X and change our color to black, and we can come back and reduce that mask by as much as we like. We can also shrink our brush and eliminate it from these stars if we wished. And so now we have revealed that saturation boost to only the galactic area. Now we always want to, again, making sure that the mask is highlighted, we always want to apply a Gaussian blur so we don't have any of those hard edges. And as we can see, even at a setting of radius of 5, we've got a good amount of softening there. So I tend to stay around 5. Some people go higher, but we do want to soften the edges of the mask for a nicer transition. Let's look at that real quick. Notice the edges before and after the Gaussian blur has been applied. When a mask is active, it also appears as a channel. But once the mask is applied or the layer is flattened, it disappears. Now we can also vary the opacity of the change. So what if we said 50% roughly that we want the saturation in the galaxy? Well, what have we done? We have made this 100% opaque adjustment layer now 50% transparent so that the background appears through it and only 50% of the change is applied to the galaxy. Go ahead and flatten that with Control E. Let's create another duplicate layer. Let's say this time we wished to desaturate the background. And again, I would work more refined by selecting background sky as opposed to stars and background sky, but just for a real quick demonstration, let's use saturate again, and let's take saturation down by, let's say, 25%. Okay, so we see that our galaxy has been desaturated again as well, which we don't want. So let's use a reveal all or show all mask this time, and we can see that the saturation affects the entire area completely. Since white reveals, black conceals, and we'll want to choose the opposite paint, black, to black out those areas that we wish to conceal from this change. And this time it's definitely the galaxy because we want to bring that back to its saturated point. And as we paint, we see that black paint to conceal in the white reveal all layer mask. We'll have a look at that, and we can see that we've effectively done the opposite of what we did before. We have desaturated the background, but by using the reveal all mask and painting out the galaxy, we've restored that saturation again. Okay, once again making sure that the mask is active, we will repeat the Gaussian blur, which appears here because it was the last filter used. We can also use Control F. At any rate, by applying the Gaussian filter, we have softened the edges and allowed that saturation level to not affect the galaxy. Again, we are free to adjust the desaturation change that we made to the background sky by allowing as much percentage of the background layer, or the layer underneath, to show through our adjustment layer. Again, the mask appears in channels until it is flat.